Hello everybody and welcome to an extra special video. Today we're doing the third collaboration presented by the Asian Cinema Circle, a collaboration of fantastic YouTubers, Hong Kong enthusiasts, collectors like myself who are very passionate about everything Hong Kong cinema, and we come together once in a while and talk about some of our favourite kind of topics. And the last two was about top 5 Hong Kong actresses, time before was top 5 favourite fight sequences, and today for the third collaboration when we're talking about top 5 Hong Kong directors. So let's get moving. And we're back, and today we're talking about top 5 Hong Kong directors from our own personal experience, our own personal preference. And this list, just like the other two, are very difficult. And I think that's the way we like it. I think that's the way we kind of like to challenge ourselves, narrow it down to top 5. And it is very difficult for sure. And I think everyone's list is going to be a little different. The other collaborators are definitely a lot more kind of old school Hong Kong, legendary kind of, status in that sense, I would say for sure. They are the kind of see-through master, and I am the humble pupil into this world that is still exploring the genre and still getting a lot from the culture and the looking into the director's kind of history and their filmography and really exploring these kind of fantastic, amazing movies that I'm still getting and receiving some really surprising and some really big bangers as well, thanks to the kind of distribution companies like 88 Films and Eureka and that kind of stuff. At number 5, graciously at number 5, we have Yuan Ping. I hope I said that correctly because I'm terrible at pronunciations. A director that I've explored more of his films a bit more recently compared to the kind of early days of me exploring Hong Kong cinema, and he has done some quite surprising level of movies. Obviously he's well known for kind of his background within the Matrix movies and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. He's done one of my favorite movies, Iron Monkey, which is absolutely phenomenal. It's an incredible Robin Hood kind of take, Batman take on Hong Kong cinema, which is fantastic. I love this film so much. I did the Dreadnought, which I recently did a review also, and also a couple of Jet Li movies with Tai Chi Master. And one of the things I like about this director, and one of the things I get behind him and why he's on my top 5 list, is that his attention to detail in terms of his craft. I really like his violence in the films, I would say for sure. I really like his style of kind of wushu kind of fighting. A lot of his movies have very wushu kind of, in crazy kind of, impractical kind of insane kind of practical effects and fighting techniques and kind of long sleeves and these kind of really mystical kind of crazy kind of tactics or kind of trickery and kind of the fight sequences, and I can see the evolution of that with, especially with all 3 of these films. I think Iron Monkey definitely takes a lot more of a kind of a fun, more fantasy based kind of thing with having a Robin Hood based kind of character, and Dreadnought's a lot more violent, sort of kind of a character very much representing Peking opera and more a demon kind of thing, and he has some kind of tricks up his sleeve. And obviously Tai Chi Master is about 2 brothers going at each other in very much a violent kind of fashion, taking aspects of their kind of teachings and their learnings and kind of taking the best aspects and good versus evil classic kind of themes. And from the films I have seen, and I've seen quite a few of his other films as well, obviously with Master Z, he's a very good director. I like his attention to detail in terms of his action, in terms of his violence.
我只覺得即係我用咁樣就我覺得自己要判斷嗰個動作片嘅潮流去到邊度，去到邊度我哋即係要全氣路啦，要改變一個走法啦。因為每個剪潮都有一個飽和點。
He definitely doesn't hold back. He likes to push his actors for sure, and I don't think I've seen a single film of his so far that I don't think I've not got a really good, fantastic thrill ride of it. And the good thing about his films also is that each one's a little different in terms of its kind of tone. Behind the scenes work of his other kind of mainstream big kind of Hollywood movies, even some Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon obviously being like one of the ultimate big ones in that sense. He definitely knows his stuff, and I think having the right actors and the right amount of dedication really makes these films really special. How he kind of presents his movies. Each film's a little different. You're not going to get the same film twice, I don't think, but you are going to get an increased level of badassery. So yeah, number 5 spot for sure is definitely well earned. At number 4 we have Johnny Goddamn To, a fantastic director, a fantastic visionary in terms of his kind of style and his craft and his attention to just character building. And that's one thing that's a difference between the last director and this one, which I think is a nice to have contrast, nice to have differences in terms of style, in terms of execution, how they present their material. Johnny To is a very different kind of approach to his kind of world and his characters and his kind of, living, breathing cities. I love his cinematography on his worlds, and I love how he talks about corruption and how about dreams and people, and how we kind of hold ourselves back in a little bit. And all 3 of his movies that I have seen so far anyway, there's so many more that I need to check out. I have a few on DVD, there's a few coming out, Existence kind of thing, and there's Running Out of Time double bill from Eureka. So many more movies of his I need to check out, and hopefully thanks to these fantastic re-releases and brand new kind of transfer editions from Eureka and many other distribution companies that are taking advantage on Johnny To movies now, we have a chance to explore more of his movies, at least myself anyway. And talking about obviously like the Takedown and PTU and the fantastic Mad Detective, all 3 of those films really tackle really in-depth kind of complex character driven journeys.
佢真係去表達我自己嘅電影世界咧，都係從一啲好似《非常突然》啊、《真心英雄》啊、《暗花》啊、PTU 去到 Mission 呢啲戲，佢係代表咗好多我自己內心嘅嘢。
Kind of thing, and that's the one thing I always love about Hong Kong cinema and any kind of movie in general, is that really engaging, really kind of thought-provoking character arcs. And if you can get a really interesting character or a couple of interesting characters within uniquely kind of framed and kind of presented world, a living, breathing world. And I love his sense of kind of his take on kind of Hong Kong and the streets and the kind of the viewing point. Everything's very naturalistic in terms of the lighting, in terms of the daytime, nighttime. Love how he approaches just kind of indoor kind of sequences and versus kind of external kind of shots kind of thing. His cinematography is purely on point. PTU has some of the best kind of nighttime filming I think I've ever seen. Johnny To just delivers a fantastic level of understanding of his kind of craft and his world and his characters. He definitely puts a lot of himself into these kind of these plays really there. And if you can get the tone right, and if you can get the world right, and you can get the kind of the sense of where these characters are, and I think that's good. That's one important detail I think within a lot of movies that they do always miss, is that understanding your location. And I think when you can understand your town, your sets kind of thing, and you can understand where these characters are and where everyone's placed, and you get a little feel and breathing of this kind of world, you're fully immersed. And I think alongside his really extensive kind of character work kind of thing, and how he kind of really dives into these kind of bigger themes, bigger ideas. And something like Takedown is about just exploring life and just kind of accepting your limitations, or reaching for your dreams, or kind of achieving your goals, or knowing that you can't beat but you're willing to accept defeat anyway kind of thing, and honor a tradition, modern day kind of thinking, and just characters surviving in the world. And I love that. And obviously PTU, corruption, everyone's shady on a different level, everyone's got their own kind of the line they won't cross, and I love the 3 different divisions. And Mad Detective is just an incredible display of like people who they present outside versus what they are inside. I love that kind of journey. And you got a character that can just cut through all the bullshit and cut through all the chaos in the world and just say it how it is. And I love that. And you can tell he's definitely been thinking about a lot of these ideas for a long time, and he definitely likes to explore really complex characters that have a point, have something to say, and presented in a really kind of stylistic but not too artsy, but just the right level of kind of engaging and kind of thought-provoking and nice steady pace, and nice kind of craftsmanship that I love to see. Johnny To is definitely one of my favorite directors, and I've only seen 3 of his films so far, so I'm hoping there will be more kind of premium releases down the line. But 3 incredible films, definitely earns my kind of 4th spot. Definitely would be a lot higher if I seen more of his movies, but I haven't got around to seeing that just yet. There's quite a few more on the list to check out, but at the moment he definitely graciously earns the 4th spot. Who knows, it might reach to my top 3 down the line, you never know. So yeah, number 4, Johnny freaking To.
做呢個 experiment until 有出現一個比較 solid 啲嘅時期。
At number 3 we have Shan freaking Shea, a fantastic, amazing Shaw Brothers early 60s, late 70s going beyond that, director that has really kind of blown me away and really helped me get into kind of the Shaw Brothers library of movies. Shaw Brothers was a little bit late into the game for me, kind of thing, going from the premium of Jackie Chan and slowly diving in way into kind of the the good and violence, kind of bloodshed movies with like John Woo, kind of thing like that stuff. And getting into Shaw Brothers was a bit of touch and go a little bit at the start, but every time I see a Shanshei film, my God, I'm getting a really kind of crafted, really excellent, well-presented movie that definitely is challenging the audience, definitely is challenging conventions of a typical kind of Shaw Brothers setup, because a lot of the kind of Shaw Brothers movies, they have similar stories, similar kind of setups, similar sets in a sense, and it can be quite difficult to stand yourself apart. There's so many of these movies being production, so many getting made in kind of quick, easy turnover, which I think is just quite amazing by itself, but having a director that kind of wants to have free range and kind of put himself on the map a little bit and kind of just say, hey, look, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to present a really kind of unique premise and delivering arguably some of the most infamous and famous kind of characters and kind of movies within kind of Hong Kong cinema, and referenced within so many Western movies, and more so now that I've realised than I originally thought. And one of them, of course, is The One-Armed Swordsman. Just an incredible film. Really got me into kind of like Shaw Brothers as a whole, kind of thing, as a library. Really amazing story. Same with the second one as well, Return of the One-Armed Swordsman. Story that is definitely is not your typical kind of standard kind of beat 'em up movie kind of thing. Interesting, complex characters. Really kind of nasty violence and fight sequences that really definitely push boundaries. And obviously, since doing kind of One-Armed Swordsman, really taking advantage of just pushing good storylines and really good kind of action set pieces, and finding directors and finding assistant directors and performers and kind of really amazing set designs, and just kind of saying, hey, how can we push this further? How can we get this to the next level? I've done this in one movie, how can I push it further? And we get something like The Boxer from Shantung, which is absolutely incredible and an amazing kind of almost anti-hero villain story that is complex and so longer than usually, a 2 hour, nearly 20-minute movie. What, for a Shaw Brothers film? That's insane. An amazing kind of craftsmanship of storytelling, and just really kind of messing with kind of audio and music and just kind of visual kind of effects, and really just going for some of these kind of really crazy kind of villains, but also grounded a little bit within its world, and it makes sense within its world. And I love how he presents tension. I think his tension is really fantastic, and so even a lot of his like love interest or non-love interest, so it's an interesting aspect on how he kind of approaches his movies. And of course, he's famous for doing a lot of the kind of the Five Venom Mob movies, which I have yet to check out a lot of them, either on the Shaw Brothers Boxer. But there's even more of his movies still to explore. There's even a lot of more movies to kind of dive into and get kind of a sense of who he is. I honestly believe Shanshei is responsible for my kind of pure enjoyment of a lot of kind of early Shaw Brothers movies, and really kind of setting the bar and really setting the stakes of what these movies should be, and pushing these kind of characters forwards. Really a legendary director that really has kind of really boosted and really kind of pushed forward kind of a lot of Shaw Brothers movies, and just there's so many more movies to check out. An amazing legendary director from the Shaw Brothers library. At number 2, guys, you know who he is. It's the man, the myth, the legend. It is Sammo Hung. How can I not put this on my list? This is so predictable. This is definitely going to be on probably everyone's list. Probably number 1 in some cases, I would say, for sure. But Sammo Hung, what a living, breathing legend, and just an amazing display of kind of talent, from directing, from starring, leading man, to Dragon Trio, Jackie Chan and Wabyung, to assistant kind of stunt directing kind of thing with some amazing movies like The IP Man and Knockoff, and just an incredible library of movies, and just really experimental with his kind of his craft in terms of his comedy, in terms of his kind of pushing himself forward with Eastern Condors to do his Twinkle Lucky Star moves, Carry On based kind of movies, doing kind of really amazing kind of pushing them forward in terms of his kind of Peking opera, and pushing different kind of fighting styles forward, showing even more of that recently with some of Eureka's kind of recent lineup, and just really kind of getting a big scope of who he is and kind of how much talent, how much hard work he's put into these movies, and just throwing himself about and just allowing himself to be the butt of the joke, or be the hero, or be this comedy sidekick, and just really going for it. For a guy that you would not think to be this kind of legendary kick-ass martial fight, he can move, he can direct to high heaven, and he has done easily some of my favourite films ever, in terms of not just Jackie Chan's lineup in the Dragon Trio, but just great movies in general. And
like the philosophy about the Kung Fu, that's because why? Because you must know that not only fight There are a lot of philosophy about your life, you know. Yeah, about how do you be later on, how do you be a master, telling the students how do you stand up on the world or the world.
You know, I think, you know, even though when I have problems with him, even though when I have a few movies here and there, I think, hey, that's not great, that's not my kind of cup of tea, or I think he goes a little bit too far on some elements, I always appreciate him. I always respect the films. I always respect him as a director, as a kind of visionary, and I understand, hey, he wants to tell this story. I'm just the viewer watching it in a sense. So anytime I kind of, you know, have a little back and forth a little bit with Sammo Hung, you know, it's all done within the kind of the love and respect of the kind of creator, and, you know, just the humble guy here watching his movies and just kind of saying, hey, I like that movie, didn't quite find this one quite great, like that great. But yeah, Sammo Hung done so many movies to count in terms of his directing style. I love so many more of his movies. Eastern Condors, I think, is one of my all-time favorites of his kind of lineup. I did not expect to see that. I did not expect that to be as good as it was. And the fact that he kind of really just kind of pushed himself to do this kind of epic Vietnam, Hong Kong movie, you know, in the vein of kind of Rambo, you know, Hong Kong's take on Rambo, and just spent a lot of goddamn money, you know, and from Golden Harvest to make it, while Jackie Chan was doing his directed kind of feature-length movies with, you know, Armor of God 2, Operation Condor. Always a pleasure to see him on the screen, whether it's a cameo, whether it's a main leading role. His comedy, his action, his sense of stage presence is just phenomenal. And the fact that I'm seeing more of his kind of early roles and his early performances, and his slowly building himself up to these different types of in between the big plays, the big hitters, I think is really more insight for me to kind of explore of him. And hopefully one day I get to see all of his movies and what he has to fully offer in terms of the full scope. Yeah, Sammo Hung definitely deserves number 2. It's a very close between 1 and 2. I think Sammo Hung definitely ends number 2 spot for sure. An amazing director, you might have heard of him. Yeah, if you haven't seen much of his films, go and check out. But yeah, Sammo Hung, brilliant. And at number 1, one of my all-time favourite directors, the number 1 spot of my top 5 Hong Kong directors ever of all time. Hardly doubt this is going to change anytime soon. It's definitely going to be on everyone else's list, and it's definitely going to be in at least the top 2 for another YouTuber that I know for sure. You know who you are. It is John Woo, hard-boiled, the killer, with the last 2 are Chivalry, Hand of Death, and Heroes that Shed No Tears. You know, Bullet in the Head. The list goes on. Better Tomorrow, just wow, what speechless, absolutely speechless. Just John Woo defined a whole genre of movies, and going from Jackie Chan and kind of my introduction of Hong Kong cinema and exploring his kind of lineup and that style of fighting, going to more kind of gunplay and, you know, taking the craftsmanship and the level of kind of, you know, what Jackie Chan does and those kind of movies, you know, fighting movies, to a level of kind of excellent kind of cinematography and gunplay and kind of, you know, backwards flips and a little bit of wushu kind of wire work and just, you know, exploitive nature of kind of violence and gun swibs and just, you know, one take wonders and big epic sets, explosions, and just epic kind of 90s kind of personalities, late 90s, yeah, late 80s, early 90s kind of swagger and personality, and just really kind of pushing these kind of incredible, interesting stories and characters on screen. You know, mafia-based kind of movies, kind of thing, challenging kind of character arcs and about kind of violence and how greed can take over, and, you know, what are your principles, what are your values in kind of this world. And I think it definitely is a good equivalent of the different decades of kind of Hong Kong cinema, going from, you know, the themes of each kind of these movies are very similar, but just applied within a different kind of genre, applied within a different decade kind of thing. And I really appreciate that. I love that. And something that kind of Jackie Chan did as well with Police Story, and I think this definitely allows it even more so. But exploring something like Better Tomorrow, for instance, just really simple, nicely well kind of presented character arcs, about 3 or 4 characters, main characters, all got different beefs and they've all got different kind of things going on, and they want to make amends. One's more jealous, one wants to be number 1 and be top dog and doesn't want to be mocked, and, you know, another character wants to kind of take on the bad guys, another character wants redemption for his actions. And I love these kind of ideas of, you know, these kind of brotherhood kind of characters and these kind of, you know, friends and family members, and, you know, all intertwining to create this amazing story. Bullet in the Head, I would say, definitively is one of my all-time favorite Hong Kong movies. And I know I've said that a little bit a few times now on this channel and kind of on this video for sure. There's so many good directors, so many good movies, but if I had to pick like, you know, definitive, like maybe top 5 of all time Hong Kong movies, maybe that'll be another list. Bullet in the Head will definitely be on that list for sure. That is an outstanding movie, an incredible masterpiece of John Woo. I would say that's better than Hard Boiled and The Kid, and I really love those movies a lot, but Bullet in the Head really spoke to me in a way that I've never seen before. And Bullet in the Head is basically 3 different types of genres mashed into one kind of crazy, nearly 2-hour plus movie. An incredible tale of kind of brotherhood and, you know, friends kind of going through the paces of kind of, you know, escaping from a kind of, you know, situation they're in, going to this kind of gangster kind of territory and doing some shady stuff, and their principles, their morals, their kind of characters are being challenged, and what they are in the situation, going to Vietnam War, and that's challenging them in a whole different way, and, you know, having body injuries and characters they care about, and, you know, how are you going to put yourself on the line? Are you going to be greedy? Are you going to be selfish? You know, and then going to kind of like the crazy kind of late 80s, early 90s kind of bullet squibs and just crazy kind of car chase sequences. Bullet in the Head is absolutely phenomenal for me.
Well, I'm dying to make a musical, you know.
And before, there's always kind of these kind of starting point movies. You kind of compare yourself, and, you know, Better Tomorrow definitely was the kind of the hot ticket at that time, and filmographies in that sense, and John Woo just really outstanding. And it's a shame a lot of these kind of Western-based movies, a lot of these American movies, didn't get a chance to really kind of shine. A lot of them got cut or edited or kind of studio interference, and it's weird to think, you know, a long time ago that I was aware of John Woo with like Mission Impossible 2 and Broken Arrow, and, you know, Face Off obviously is one of the exceptions in that sense, but going into his Hong Kong movies, even his early ones with Hand of Death and Last 2 Hour Chivalry, incredible, similar themes, similar kind of talking points, just in a different point, different time, definitely pushing forward just a different level of, even then, in terms of action, in terms of kind of character driven work, and, you know, twists and turns that you didn't really expect. And I think Hand of Death, I think, is definitely extremely underrated in terms of, you know, a very early Jackie Chan film, but also just a really good kind of example of be careful what you wish for. You know, these movies, you know, the hero doesn't always win. You can have your vengeance, you can stand together in your trio, but it doesn't matter if, you know, and sometimes you might die, sometimes you might live, or sometimes you might be the last one standing and have to face the burden, have to face the guilt of what's happened in front of you. And definitely, as a director, that is challenging conventions and challenging ideas, and, you know, the fact that his films are so easily accessible and so easily watchable, and the fact they've been referenced by so many other kind of Western movies kind of thing, whether you've seen, everyone knows about Hard Boiled, whether you've seen the film or not, you know, and that's an incredible testament to those movies, and the fact it's a video game, and the fact that every other movie tries to kind of emulate a little bit of those kind of movies in terms of the style, in terms of the action. You know, Quentin Tarantino definitely loves, you know, John Woo in that sense, and the fact he's doing another film soon called Silent Night, and he's back, and hopefully that's a really well return to form for him, because he hasn't done a film in a long time. But yeah, just all of his movies from what I've seen, there's a few others I haven't seen just yet, but John Woo, just an incredible, you know, definitive point within Hong Kong cinema, definitely a staple name, definitely a staple pushing for a new genre of movies with the kind of hero bloodshed movies, and really challenging conventions in a way we haven't seen before. And the fact that he was assistant director for Shan-Che, and he worked on a lot of his other kind of early kind of Shaw Brothers projects, and he's involved and starred on a few of them as well, really kind of paved the way and got his understanding, and he did the right thing. He waited, he learned, he grafted his own talents, he knew when to, and he kind of observed, he kind of learned from the best, and he kind of pushed himself forward, and when the time was right, he presented these really incredible movies. So there you go, guys. It's been my list for my top 5 Hong Kong directors. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Hopefully it wasn't too long for you. Please go and check out the other collaborations in this kind of, you know, this Asian cinema circle. I'm sure all the videos are uploaded by the time this video has come out. I'm very curious to compare lists now. I'm going to be checking out some of these videos very soon. Please comment your thoughts and opinions down below. What do you think of these kind of choices? What are your favourite films? What are your top 5 movies? But I'd love to see your videos or your comments. So next time, guys, keep an eye out for the next collaboration video. There will be another review very soon for an upcoming Hong Kong release that I've recently done. So in the meantime, guys, Amphlett Reviews, signing out.